Hello everyone on YouTube. So I finished with this project and it requires a lot of overview, explaining, description. So this is a long vid. I would suggest that you go down below, down here, and change the setting speed to 1.5 or even 2. So the video will go a little faster. It'll still be coherent at 1.5 speed. It'll save you some time for those folks who just want to see the knife and they don't want to see the babble. But I'm going to babble. I'm going to be doing a lot of talking and explaining. And because I think this model, I really love this model. I think this model is going to sell. It'll become popular. I'm going to be making a few of these. It's going to require explanation. So I'm going to cover it all in one video and refer to this video for all my future projects when it comes to a knife like this. So what do we have here? I don't even know where to begin. Let's begin with the blade. S7 steel, approximately 1/4 inch thick. I think it's a little more than that. I'll provide the specs below. It has 3 bevels here for chopping and prying. Very similar to an Americanized Tanto, but the customer wanted a 3rd bevel here. If this is 1 and 2 that you typically get, he wanted a 3rd bevel here. And the concept was that this provides for a better chopping tip, better chopping performance in the front, not having the sharp tip there. So he's got an extra bevel there on both sides. You can tell because of the short grind line here, the short grind, that we have a thicker edge, so it's for chopping. Unless the customer specifies, it's not going to be razor sharp. This is for chopping, processing wood. You don't want a razor sharp edge. You don't need a razor sharp edge, but one will be provided if necessary. So Mr. L, if you want the razor sharp edge, let me know. I'll provide that before I ship it. The area here, as you can tell with the higher grind, is much thinner. Everything here is flat with a slight convex. More convex here, more flat here. It's a thinner edge for food processing. So this is a camp knife to process wood, for processing food. In addition, for this multi-purpose knife, he wanted a knife that would facilitate tearing down pallets. So we have pry bar fittings. The steel here is S7, steel here is S7, and I believe this was either a 1/2 inch or 3/8 inch when I started. I don't know what this size is now. I'll provide the specs below. These 2 pieces and the blade, of course, heat treated at Peter's Heat Treat to a hardness of 57. At 57, you get a peak in the toughness, as well as with a higher RC 57, you get better edge holding ability. So tough steel, and the purpose of this was not only for the pry bar, but he also wanted to be able to, with a soft mallet, strike the back so that he could drive this into the front into a piece of wood. So the thickness of these 2 pieces together with the tang gives it a large striking surface. Also, it gives me a counterbalance, so when he chokes up for food processing, it's well balanced. When he grabs it from the back, when the customer grabs the blade from the back, it's more forward balance because the heavier weight is in your hand and you got more forward balance. I'll show that later. Or actually, I'll give you links to a video where I explain that better. Rock pattern finish. Hopefully it's the design. Not hopefully, I'm sure that's what he wanted. I love it. Rock pattern finish even on the pry bar fittings. Pry bar fittings are removable, and if he so chooses, he can put one of these pieces here, and then he can carry the camp knife without the pry bar fitting. So if he's going actual camping and he doesn't want the extra weight, or these might get in the way, he can do this simple swap out, change out. The fittings are here, stainless steel and hardened with, I did my own rock pattern, and I tried to put them in the etching solution to make them duller, so they're a little flatter, to look more closely, if you can say, match the steel. It requires 3 pieces. I'm giving you 6, so you've got an extra set of fittings. Okay, so these things are all interchangeable. The material here and the material here is canvas micarta, and it has been sealed with a black epoxy, your regular epoxy that I use for knife making, and it's got a little bit of a dye in it. So I did that to seal the micarta, because some people believe that the micarta actually is porous. There's a rough texture to it. Let me see if I can zoom in and focus. There's a rough texture to it for gripping. The blade itself has a rough texture to it. Hopefully I'm focusing on it. Not the blade, the flats. Okay, focus again. What else to talk about? I have inscribed R, and then I realized I can fit the word right on the tang and the fittings. I put an R and then realized later, let me put the word right in there. Same thing with this one. Well, this one's the left one. Click here so it focuses. I apologize for the shaky camera. And I'm hoping it focuses. Anyone who does vids with the camera knows that there's always a challenge. Okay, so those are the fittings. The sheath requires some explanation as well. I'm giving you Chicago screws. 4 of them are needed for the extension piece. We'll get into that. I'm giving you 4 extra ones as well, and I'm giving you extra long ones so that you could attach any additional items that you want to carry onto this sheath. The sheath is made out of Kydex, 0.08 inches thick, each sheet. Okay, these fastening screws and the Chicago screws and the Kydex and the Tek-Lok all come from, and the canvas micarta all come from knifekits.com. So if you need to buy additional fastening screws, if you need to buy additional Chicago screws, or you want them a different color or a different size, you can order them from them. I'm going to give you extra, just to have them. But if you want even more, if these are expendable, they're not going to last forever. You're going to keep tightening them and loosening them. They're going to, like old regular screws, they're going to, the heads are going to get worn, so you may need to replace them after a little while. Hopefully after a long while. Okay, so the sheath. I guess I'm going to have to put the camera down to talk about the sheath. What can I talk about it now? I gave you extra holes. I still have to finish this up. It's a nice day today, and I wanted to take advantage of the sun and good weather. So I didn't finish this up yet. I have to just clean this up a little bit. That's all that I need to do. Also, when I took a look, I noticed how maybe this one is a little shorter than this one, so I need to expand it and clean it up. I was going to give you another one here, but this was a lot of work. I think this is enough. I'd rather not do this, okay? But I'll leave it up to you. Customer wishes, whatever the customer wishes. If you want me to give you another one here, I will do so. It's just going to require more time, but I'll do it. Let me put the camera down, and we will talk about the sheath. So the Tek-Lok that we have here, again from knifekits.com, the large one, okay, can go anywhere along the side here. So if you want to carry it this way, rather large to carry it this way, but if that was something you wanted to do, you could attach it to the back side, carry it this way, or scalp carry in the back. Okay, I think it's rather large for that, but I'll leave it up to you. You can carry it over here. So if you put the Tek-Lok at this height, so it's up here, you can carry it over here like this. I found this way to be a little bit uncomfortable because with the long blade and the long handle, I found myself with the chest muscle and with the love handle here, I was afraid I was going to be cutting myself. It may apply to you as well. So I don't like this position, but I'll leave it up to you to decide. Right, so, and I had the Tek-Lok on this side, so it kind of flared out a little bit. It didn't look too well. Put the Tek-Lok on this side. Same thing where I was over here, whether it's one side or the other. I really didn't like it because of the pectoral muscle and the love handle here. It was just too close for me. So I built you an extension. The extension here is made out of Kydex as well. It's 0.125 inches thick, so it's the thickest you can get from knifekits.com. Very sturdy, very strong, and it is designed so that you can install it this way. There's 3 holes here, 3 holes here, so it installs, so the top hole's there. You can bring it down if you want, if it's too low or too high, so it's adjustable. Okay, it's also reversible. So if you want it on this side, which is the same thing here, okay, but if you don't like the end opening here, you can flip this over. You can flip this over, and it mates up in there as well. It'll mate up in well, so you can put it like that. Depending on which side you want the blade, depending on which side you want to carry it, you would just have to take the Tek-Lok and flip it over to the other side. So it's interchangeable, reversible. The best way I found to wear it for me, me being right-handed, was to have it like, there we go, was to carry it like this. I liked it this way because I can then avoid pectoral muscle and the belly fat and just bring it inside. It was also lower. The pry bar fittings didn't hit me. I'll show an example once I put it together. Pry bar fittings don't hit me. So I like it in this configuration. Again, I'll leave it up to you. This is a little wordy, but other customers are going to want this and they're going to need the explanation. Everyone's going to have a slightly different question. Okay, and like I said, here it's interchangeable. You can lower or raise this if you wish. Okay, by changing the screw positions here. Or even I gave you extra hole positions so this can come up or come down from here. You probably don't want it up too high and have all this plastic Kydex up high. If you wanted to and you were sure that's the way you want to go, what I would suggest is you just cut it, and I can give you instructions as to how to cut it, and then with a little bit of sandpaper you just smooth out the rough edges, and it can be adjustable. I just thought a few options here, a few options here is all you need to make this, you know, wear it this way, wear it this way, wear it here, wear it here, wear it here, wear it here, and over there. So here we have the sheath assembled the way it was comfortable for me. Me being right-handed, I prefer this on my left because. So what I have it here is with the 4 Chicago screws, using the extreme ends. I don't need to put 6. 4 is more than sufficient. Okay, and I've got here only 2 screws, and I will give you 2 extra screws for the Tek-Lok. Let's flip it over. You'll see that this one sheet of Kydex has 2 different textures. It has this texture, which is typically on the inside of the Kydex, and it has this texture, which is on the outside. So if you do make it reversible and interchangeable with different sides, you might end up having it look like this. I don't see that as much of a problem. This is a utilitarian blade, so not an art knife. Utilitarian being the primary purpose. What I wanted to cover was, let's flip it over here. We have a drain hole. Maybe I got to show it this way. Sorry about the shaky camera. And I hope it's focusing. It's really bright outside. We have a generous drain hole. Maybe I could look in there. There we go. Generous drain hole, which is important for a utilitarian blade like this, because if you're going to be taking this camping, chopping pallets, you're going to get dirt on your blade. It's going to happen. You're going to do your best, of course, to wipe it down before it goes back in the sheath, but chances are, I got a feeling, you're going to get dirt, sand on the blade, and that means it's going to get into the Kydex. So what happens then is, Kydex being softer than steel, the Kydex will never scratch your steel, not an RC57. But sand being very hard, yet brittle, very hard, it's going to scratch your steel. So if you get sand in there, caught in there because you've got oil in there and you're sheathing and unsheathing the knife, once the sand gets trapped in there, it's going to start scratching up your blade. So what you're going to want to do is flush it out. Everything here is rust resistant. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is, if you blow water in here, maybe with a little bit of soap and you shake it up, you blow water in here, it's going to blow out there and hopefully any kind of sand or dirt that gets trapped. And vice versa. You blow water in this end, it's going to blow out and flush everything out. That would be how I would maintain this sheath. That's how I maintained the sheath when I was doing all the grinding and all the cutting. Definitely grit got inside, but everything was flushed out carefully. And I was sheathing the knife multiple times, and I didn't see any scratching on the blade. nothing significant, nothing where I thought there was a concern. So I wanted to point out that design, that we do have a drain hole if necessary. Some people, what they do is, some knife makers, what they do is they put an extra drain hole this way. So you got one going in and out that way, and then an open hole, and the steel would be exposed. Not so much the tip. You're not going to have, it's going to be a small hole, but that's an option that we could do as well. Okay, so I've got the fittings on. Okay, for this demonstration, I don't have an actual edge on here, so I don't cut myself because I'm using the camera to see what I'm doing. So no actual edge. For the chopping part, I'm not going to give you an edge unless you request that. I think we covered that. I know that this was ground to near 0, so in some areas it does have an edge, so I've got to be careful. But if you want definitely an edge to cut paper, if that's your prerogative, if that's what you want, I will do that for you. One thing to point out is that when grinding at an angle here and then turning and going here and turning and going here, I was noticing that I was getting some odd scraping marks, and I was trying to use that to my advantage to give it that rock pattern, that rough look to it. So I was going with it. The same reason why I kept the milled surface on the steel. You can see that there's some tiny horizontal lines there. That's the milled surface. Kept that because I was trying to give it that rougher look. It's not the same on both sides, but I just wanted to point that out. Also, there's a slight transition from your cutting edge to here. There's a little lip over here. There's a little lip over here. I kept that in there. Thought the transition would be fine. It's not a cutting edge, but I thought maybe that would be, I don't know. Come on. I thought that would work. I can remove it if you want. Okay. I put the screws on. Okay, and you can see that the cool. You can see, if I can focus. I hope I'm in focus. I'm sorry if I'm not. You can see that the machining of these pieces is very tight. Okay, and the air gap is very slight. So that is done here so that if there's any kind of pounding or striking in there, if there's any kind of warping over time or distortion, you're not going to crack the scales. Scales are pinned with two, what size were they? 3/16? 3/16 carbon fiber pins, and then epoxied on. There's a little bit of epoxy in this area here along the tang, because that's where your hand is going, and I just didn't want any kind of dirt getting into any kind of crevice, and it would minimize the chances of rust forming in this area here. I didn't put the epoxy on the spine, but swing it around. Let's see if we can do a little flyby here. Do a little flyby here so you can see the work, admire the work a little bit. Hopefully this isn't making anyone nauseous. All right, it's going to be obvious to some knife makers that this back end is heavy and clunky, and it is, but it's a counterbalance to the front, and I showed that in my other videos. It's not uncomfortable. It is kind of rounded because of the rock pattern, so it is kind of comfortable, but it is larger than you normally have. But you don't need to go all the way back here to chop. You could always go up here to grab it, and then it's not so bad. Let's see what else is there to talk about. We can look at the underside. All right, so I hope I'm getting all this in focus. So that's the underside. Pry bar fitting. This part of the pry bar we'll see later rubs or touches this area here, so it's not rubbing on your skin or clothing. So that's why it was kind of built that way. It's also my preferred, how I assemble this, my preferred option, so that if you look at the blade here and the pry bar goes here with the hooks going in this area, it actually goes over here, not on your skin. So I thought that was clever. If you put this on the other side, then it may not work as well. I don't know what else to talk about. Oh, Chicago screws. Yeah, let's talk about Chicago screws. Chicago screws comes in different sizes. I'm giving you two different types, the shorter ones and the longer ones. The longer ones are for either, I'm trying to find myself in the camera. Can't. The glare is so bad out here, so bright today. The longer Jacargo screws are so that if you want to replace these and attach something in this area to make use of this area, these are too small, not wide enough. So I'm giving you wider ones to fit in here. Then you can use these holes to attach the sheath to the extender plus anything else. That's what this is for. Or if for some reason you have something that's very thick in this area here and you need to attach it, I'm giving you the thicker ones. So there's an assortment of sizes, assortment of colors at knife kits, and I'm not plugging them for any particular reason. It's just that that's where I buy my stuff, and the prices are suitable. The prices are reasonable. The quality is excellent. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to put the knife. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I will also include 2 of these bits. Let me just put this knife down. I'm going to include 2 of these bits. These are the bits that I use to tighten this. I'm going to give you 2 because right now I'm working fine with 1. But again, if anything were to cause them to jam or you know, you get dirt in there and it gets seized, then you're going to need 2, 1 on each side to loosen them up. So I'm going to give you 2, or a spare in case you lose one. Okay. Well, I'm trying to think of everything. Some people would recommend putting Loctite, a weak version of Loctite, to make sure these don't come loose after time. Let me know if you want that. I would say it's not necessary. If it does become a problem, then you can use Loctite. Okay, so I'm going to put this screwdriver, not included, just the bits. So I'm going to put the sheath on, and then we'll talk about how it sheaths and unsheaths next. Okay, so I was playing back the previous vid and I realized there was something I needed to cover. 2 things I needed to cover. Number 1, I made a comment that the back end is a bit clunky. Yes, it's heavy because it has to be a counterbalance. Maybe I can go here. It has to be a counterbalance to the front. To the front. So when you're choking up on it, if you're doing any kind of food processing and you're grabbing it this way, you can see right here that it's well balanced. The balance point, oh, we didn't talk about the balance point. The balance point is right here. Let me pan back, or just swing around. The balance point is right here in front of the Kydex, the micarta scale. It's right here. So if you're doing food processing and you want to do any kind of whittling or shaving or food processing, right here, it's very nimble, very well balanced because of the counterweight in the back. If you're grabbing it back here, then that weight is in your palm, and then the knife is front heavy for chopping. Now, because the customer wants to use this back end for striking into wood, or he wanted to pummel the back, it's wide for that reason as well. The pry bar fittings are thicker than what you would normally see on a hammer, because if he's going to be striking the back, he might end up hitting this and this might break. And I am sure that all of you have a hammer where you broke the pry bar fittings. Your hammer was probably a $10 hammer or less, $15 hammer or less. And it was just, if it broke, you threw it out and you got another one. Well, this is not a $15 knife, so I made them a little overbuilt to make them stronger, so that if he does strike in the back and miss, he doesn't damage them. Made them a little thicker and stronger and heavier to be a better balance, and so I can manipulate that center of balance and keep it right there at the right there where he might pinch the blade, pinch the blade here to do any kind of food processing and have a good nimble blade. So I wanted to clarify that, so no one thinks that it's uncomfortable or was not, intelligently designed. All right, so now I'm going to put on the sheath, and we'll talk about sheathing and unsheathing. But before we do that, I want to talk about the Tek-Lok. I noticed that there's vids on Tek-Loks. Some people don't understand how they work. Maybe it's not self-explanatory, so it might be, obvious to me because I do this all the time, but maybe not for others. Okay, so the Tek-Lok, it gets attached behind the sheath or the extender. Okay, the Tek-Lok here, the belt. This is the larger size. They come in 2 sizes, small and large. Yeah. or medium and large, I'm not sure. This is the large one. The belt goes in here, and I don't remember now what the size is. I think it goes anywhere from maybe an inch. It'll fit an inch belt to maybe a 2-inch belt. These two pieces, round pieces here that my finger's going over, are removable, so then you can get the full 2 inches. I believe this is 2 inches. Belt inside. If you've got a 1-inch belt like I'm wearing right now, you may want to take this and move it up a little bit, move it up a notch. These square holes here are the notches, and you can make the bars adjustable too. That protrusion there is the protrusion, or the link, or the locking for the bar. That's the other bar. So you can actually take this one or both and just move them up a notch, and move them up to the very top. I don't know why you would want them up there, unless you wanted to keep one high and one low. I don't know. It's versatile. So you can change the size of the hole. Why would you want to change the size of the hole? Well, the obvious one is, obviously you want to make the hole as large as possible to fit a large belt, or you want to make it as tight as possible to fit a smaller belt so that there isn't much rocking. I have a 1-inch belt, and this is like 1.5 inch gap in here, almost 1.5 inches, maybe 1.75 inches, maybe 1.75 inches. So you'll see when I wear it, the weight of the knife is going to cause it to rock a little bit, and that's okay with me. But you may want to adjust that. How do you take you can either pass the belt through, or if you want to make any adjustments, like remove this, the Tek-Lok, or you want to move the spacer, there's a little locking mechanism here, and then this pinches to open. So that's what the Tek-Lok looks inside. These are the 2 screws that hold it to the extender. These are the bars I was talking about that can be popped up and moved into the other notch. What we have here is a Phillips screw. What we have in here is a gasket. It's a rubber gasket, a rubber washer, and then we have a nut, if you will, that's not shaped like a nut. It actually looks like a screw itself, but it's got the hole. So this would be the female part, and the screw that I showed before is the male part. It screws in there. What's important to point out is that the rubber gasket is compressible, and if you go too far, the screw and the threads will stick out. So it's not shown here, but I will give you a washer to push this out a little more, to push this setup out a little more, so these sharp threads don't rub into your jeans or your belt or what have you, and then start, scratching and wearing. So these threads are long enough to go through thicker Kydex, or 2 layers of Kydex, but 1 layer of Kydex, it's not short, and it's too long. So to compensate, I'll give you a washer to push them out, okay, so they fit better. I wanted to point that out. And then to put it back, that's a click, and then here locks. All right, I've seen some people, okay, if you're going to put the Kydex, if you're going to put the Tek-Lok and mount it to the sheath without the extender, you're going to want to put the Tek-Lok on the back side, closest to your body. You want to put the washer in between the Tek-Lok and the Kydex, and then you're going to want to put that female nut on the outside and the male screw inside, like I have it over there, just in this area here. So the rubber spacer, or the gasket, right, would be in between the Kydex and the sheath. Why? Well, you could see here that there's a ridge. Where's my finger? There it is. Hopefully I'm in focus. There's a ridge. That rubber gasket not only gives you a cushion, shock absorber perhaps, between your belt, your body, and the Kydex sheath, but it also fills in that gap, that ridge, because of the height difference, the thickness difference between the Kydex that's been molded to fit the knife and the flat Kydex in this area here that's bound together. Okay, I hope that made sense. Now I'm going to put the sheath on. Okay, so I've got 1 1/8 or so wide leather belt, and the space here in the Kydex is in the Tek-Lok is about 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches. So there's a little bit of play, a little bit of give, so it's going to rock. because this is not in the center of balance, center of mass here, it's going to cause this to rock a little bit. I can minimize the rock by adjusting that bar inside the Tek-Lok. I didn't. It just didn't think it was necessary, so I just kind of left it where it is. I'm right-handed, so after I'm done chopping or cutting whatever I want, I can either put it back into the sheath by switching hands and then dropping it in there. It is a little tight. Okay. As I mentioned before, the pry bar fittings are resting on, is not on your actual body, it's on the Kydex. I'd rather have this configuration in case I fall or in case something hits the pry bar fittings. It's not going to hit my skin, my clothing. I got this to protect myself. And, you know, it's the Kydex. It's going to wear after a while. I've been doing this often. Okay, I've been doing this for quite a few times to make sure everything was fine. And I don't see much wear. The texture here kind of hides the scratches a little bit. That's pretty cool. But if you were to take this and change the configuration, there's a small chance, I don't remember now, there's a small chance that the Kydex here will not protect, will not cover. You'll have the tips. So this is why I chose, for me, this kind of configuration. Why did I choose it on the left side? I don't know, it just feels more comfortable on the left side than it does on the right. It's going to vary from person to person. You can either hold on to it and pull it out. Okay. What did I do last time? I think I can drop it in this way, or I can drop it in this way, and it does rock quite a bit, doesn't it? When you're putting it in and out, tightening it would help. Okay. My height, I'm 5'9", 5'8", 5'8.5", 5'9". So a taller person would have longer legs. My inseam is like 29. So just to give you, if you want to see a size comparison, what I will do is put it on the other side and show you what it looks like when you've got the blade now facing front. On this side, the blade will face back. Let's take a look to see how that works. So here it is. I'm right-handed. On my right side, the blade is facing back, and you can see here because of the give that I left in the Tek-Lok narrow belt. It tilts. This tilts forward. Blade tilts back, which is fine. It's not a problem. It could be strapped to the leg if that's how you want to carry it. That's fine. You know, so it doesn't flop around too much. Again, what's important to me was to have these pry bar fittings resting back here. To unsheath, okay, the sheath back in. Okay, it is a tight fit. You can hear the click. All right. I left I peeled this back to sort of facilitate, if it's strapped to your leg, facilitate pulling it out. The hole here so you can get the fingers in there. Otherwise, I would have made this a hole all the way through, right? I would have made this all the way through. But this kind of allows the fingers to get underneath here. Right, so you can sheath it out this way. Not my favorite way to do it. I think I mentioned before because I've got a lot of mass here that's hiding it. But you know, putting it back down is not so bad. Not as bad as I think I originally said. Okay, so there we go. What's left to do is put an edge on the part over here. Get your feedback regarding the edge on the chopping. I want to clean this up a little bit. There's two missing eyelets because I didn't know whether or not you would want me to expand and create a slot in this area, so I didn't finish the two eyelets there. I've got to take some pictures for the website. That's pretty much it. If you have any other changes you want to do, let me know. I think I covered everything. If not, I'm going to have to do another vid to supplement that. I don't think I need to attach these here, but maybe I need to get a little closer. But you can imagine, that's the right side, yep. That's what it would look like if you didn't want to carry the pry bar fittings. They would fit there. Okay. So I've got an edge on the blade. Just the area here for food processing or whatever. This, you know, we talked about that already. And let's do a sharpness test. Can't finish a video without a sharpness test, right? So, phone book paper. Okay. I hope I'm in the camera. Oops. Okay, this area here is rounded, just in case the finger catches, whether you're sheathing or unsheathing. So right here, there's a 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch. That's not sharpened, but it's sharpened from this point right down to the notch. So, sharpness. Don't even have to swing hard. It's actually sharper than it needs to be. Don't even have to swing hard. Let's see what happens. Haven't done this before. Let's see what happens. Slow motion, but not really slow motion. All right, so everyone, have a great night.